Hello again, this is Brian Copeland talking. Welcome to another edition of Copeland's Corner. As always, I've got a distinguished panel of comics joining me to talk about some of the news of the week. Cathy Sorbo is with us, Eddie Brill, and Greg Proops is back. How's it going, everybody? What's happening?
Good.
Hooray.
Okay, now where is everyone? Greg, where are you? You're in LA, right?
I'm in the center of the Nazi takeover, Los Angeles, where I can barely hear you because of the gunfire from all the Latins in my neighborhood. They've upturned a lot of police cars here, as you can tell. It's pretty hectic here in LA.
I thought I saw flames behind you. Didn't Rodney King come out and make a statement about how can't everybody just get along?
Yeah, it's been pretty wild here. I'm in Los Angeles and I'm headed for Canada tomorrow, our 51st state.
Yeah. Are you coming back?
I am. I'm not going to live in Canada like all the history professors. I'm just going up with the Who's Line guys to do a week and a half of gigs across the most rednecky part of Canada, Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan, which people don't really know about Canada because people don't know anything about Canada.
No.
The East Coast is a little bit liberal, and Vancouver and BC are a little bit liberal. Mm-hmm. And then when you get into the center there, we're kind of in the Texas, Arkansas part of Canada.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. They say that, from what I understand, tourism between the U.S. and Canada at the border is down like dramatically over the course of the last 70 days. Can you only believe it's been like 70 or 71 days we've been living under this regime? I mean, it's really
because it seems like it was only yesterday that Hitler was elected, and now we're already to 1938. So
it does. It seems like yesterday. In fact, yesterday I woke up. I go, did Hitler get elected?
Right, and it turned out it was Mussolini. So close.
Cathy Sorbo, where are you? Are you in LA as well?
I'm in Seattle, Washington.
Up in Seattle. I'm in Seattle a million years.
We're almost Canadian.
Close
enough. You are.
Only time I've ever been to Canada was I was working somebody. It was part of a. I know what it was. It was a Seattle comedy competition, and one of the nights or two of the nights were in Canada.
Well, back in the 1980s, we'd go to Canada a lot, a lot. There was a huge circuit there. And now I don't know, for Americans, I don't know if I'd want to be trying to cross the border right now.
Yeah, you'll have to give us a report, Greg, and let us know how you were received as an American, how you guys were received.
Thanks for your vote of confidence, everybody. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to being detained at the border. One time I was going through and they used to ask you what you were doing. Now it's all by machine. But once upon a time, there were Canadian border agents that all had that terrible haircut that Canadian guys wear, the one that's spiky. Like they put spikes in there, not like punky, but, just sort of too short and kind of spiked up.
They can put their keys in there and everything.
Right? And the guy stopped me and he goes, and I had to go to the room, right? And he goes, what do you do? And I said, I'm a comedian. And he looked at my passport and he went, you are not a Canadian. And I said, I'm not a Canadian, I'm a comedian. And was he bloody angry at me? Oh my God. It was like, he misunderstood me. He thought I said Canadian. And I'm like, why would I tell you I'm a Canadian when I just handed you an American passport? And then he made me sit there for a year. But I'm very lovable with that. I find that arguing with customs officials really not a win-win situation. So it's best to just...
They used to pull over cars all the time in the 80s and literally go through your car.
There was a lot of drug smuggling. That's the deal. That's
why.
And
I have a good Bo Smithson story I should tell you guys later about the border. Oh my God.
Okay. Off the air.
Please.
Okay.
Eddie Brill, where are you located right now?
I'm in the mellow New York City, where we've already hated Trump since Central Park 5 or the Vindicated 5, and we never accept him in our group, and it makes him very sad. And now that Roy Cohn's gone, he, all he does is blaspheme New York City. But we're actually mellow right now, and we can go up to Toronto and no one's giving us shit for it. You know what I mean? It's like it's very interesting how New York is not part of everything sucks in America right now. It's people are doing their business, and there's one thing about New York. People will say to me when I work in Europe, where in America are you from? I go, I'm not from America, I'm from New York. It's a little arrogant, but it's the truth. We don't want to be part of that other thing. We're happy in our world here, and business is good, the comedy's good. It's New York, and so it's very, very different. It's not LA right now, and I'm thankful.
But I'm here in the Bay Area. So we got the whole country covered. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Greg, go ahead.
I was just going to ask what one thing is Brad Lander out of jail?
He wasn't as far as this morning, but I have a feeling he'd be by the end of the day. You know, a feeling, not for sure, but it's very sad to watch these people. You know, their feathers are very barely ruffled. It's like, oh, which did you order, the ham sandwich or the turkey sandwich? And now they're, you know, as Brad Lander's getting pushed up against the wall, and it's creepy.
Well, let's jump in, because that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today. And that is there are a number of op-ed pieces about how elected Democratic officials, government officials, are being arrested. And, you know, you had Brad Lander, you had California Senator Alex Padilla, who had the nerve, you know, to ask Kristi Noem a question. And,
Right.
you know, they're claiming that they didn't know that he was a U.S. Senator. You hear him on the recording saying, "I'm a senator." He's wearing a shirt that says U.S. Senator.
Yeah, I am the senator, you idiot.
For God's sake. And then they also arrested the mayor of Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah, because he was standing near a fence, you know, and you know how horrible that offense is, you know, to be near a fence.
Okay, now here's the interesting thing, and that is, well, you know, that I wondered how they were going to spin this. And I saw a thing in the Wall Street Journal today, among other conservative / right-wing outlets. Or what they're saying is that these Democrats are trying to get arrested on purpose, so that way they go viral, and it is for publicity and self-promotion. So I'm going to ask you, first of all, do you think that's true? That's one. Number two, do you think that the viral videos of Democratic officials in handcuffs actually helps the cause, helps the opposition?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think I don't believe. Well, we know there's not happening because they're trying to, you know, be seen. What's happening is everything that's being done has made it look like we need help, and you know, we need the Navy, and we need the Marines, and we need and really all these kind of things are very small things that they're trying to blow out of proportion. And the Republican side is pissed because it's not really connecting, except with the 12, you know, people that believe that stuff is true. And you know, the thing with the New Jersey, Newark guy, same kind of thing. He was not doing really anything. He was just over there going, you know, free people, do good things for humans. And people are like, you know, well, let's get in his way. Let's make it look like he's a jerk. And it didn't work. It didn't work. I don't know what's going on the West Coast as far as that's concerned, but you know, they're trying to look what's happened. They try to do the whole thing with, you know, the Democrats and Republicans got together. They made a bill so they can, you know, match Obama's border stuff. And Trump said, let's not make this happen because it'll make Biden look good. Well, the same thing's happening in LA. They're peaceful protests, and they're freaking out because they need to cause a stir. I don't know if that answers.
I'm going to give Cathy a shot here. Any thoughts on this? Do you think that this helps the Democrats?
Absolutely. I do. I think, you know, when you see this kind of thing happening before your eyes, and then you get it like with the No Kings protest, you know, you're like surrounded by like-minded people who hate and have contempt for the same person. I think it's very unifying. I think it helps a lot.
Okay,
Sorry
Greg?
for the people who are arrested, but hey.
Greg, you think it helps Democrats? Does it help the opposition for Democratic lawmakers?
Certainly. Yeah, no, I don't think people are excited by this extracurricular rendition nonsense. I mean, we've already had the beer hall putsch, and we've already had Crystal knocked. And we're kind of waiting for the Night of the Long Knives, to make a hideously long analogy about Nazi Germany. You know, one of the things the Nazis specialized in was fake events. And this playbook is ancient, and like that's what they're doing. Nothing was happening in LA.
No.
I assure you. And Obama and Biden, which is well known, deported lots of people without any of this police state tactic jazz. Now, having guys run up on you with masks on and no identification is absolutely unconstitutional and absolutely what the Republican Party wanted to install the second they got back in. Everybody remembers the summer of 2020, where the police rioted in every city. And in Portland, every night they fought the people in the street, if you remember that, for one whole month using enterprise rental vans and no ID. They fought the citizens of Portland in the street. Well, everybody forgot about all that and decided to vote for him again or whatever, or white people did. And then, so here we are. Does it help? Yes. Like Cathy said, I was at the protest here in the fabulous Pseudo city of West Hollywood. And of course, there was a zillion people out and everybody's full of anger and resentment. But I think what's more important than protesting is to get everyone to understand that every single election is wildly important. And I mean, your librarian, the city council, the college board, the school board. Like, for instance, they had elections yesterday in Virginia and the turnout was low. And to me, that drives me bloody crazy. I'm happy to see the protests, but the real change isn't going to happen until you eject everyone from office that's a Nazi. And the only way to do that is by not electing them.
And you got to remember, a lot of these people start with this. They start their political careers at the school board level. School board, then it's city council, then it's supervisor, then they run for Congress, or they run for higher state office, or whatever. Let's talk about the protest for a minute. Okay, so No King's Day saw protests somewhere between 8 and 13 million people, depending upon whose numbers you believe. I think I saw something from the the National Park Service put the number at something like close to 13 million people across the country in 2,000 cities were out in the streets last Saturday. Okay, so we had a huge protest, but what was accomplished? Did it do anything? Because here Trump's response was that he has ordered ICE to ramp things up in blue states and in places where they protested. So did it accomplish anything?
I think
everybody's pissed.
I think morale, in a sense, is like you're sitting around, you feel like you can't do anything, and then you bring 13 million people together, and you say, okay, it's things are tough, and cards are stacked against us, but there are human beings out there, and I think that really does help. And even if it's in a small way, it's a big way, because you feel lost in all this. You feel like there's nothing I could do. If I say something, they're going to say the opposite. I can't win. This is people getting together and saying their truth.
Anybody else?
I agree 100%. And plus, then you have like solid photographic proof of the sheer numbers of people unified in their hatred.
Right. And then, you see the shot that Fox took of Trump and his wife, talking, and they added applause. They go, ladies and gentlemen, Melania, and they added applause and laughed. They sweetened it like a really bad comedy special. They had sweetened the because they show both sides when I forget which news, ABC or one of those, or PBS, and they showed it. There was no applause. It was just like, okay, 7 people in the audience, but Fox sweetened it. And it was, and they showed it, and it was great that they showed it. And I wish they showed it to everybody, but you have to be looking for it.
Well, word is that Trump reamed Hegseth over the fact that there was not more enthusiasm among the troops who were marching, and among the people, and he blamed that on him. And it's so funny when you look at the pictures. They're claiming that there were a lot, just like his first inauguration, claiming there were a lot more people there than there were, and there was a test that somebody did a couple of weeks ago where they called all of the hotels in DC and tried to book 15 rooms. I think about 10 days out, tried to book 15 rooms for that day, and every single hotel had them. And generally, if there's an event like that, if people are going to go, those rooms are gone, 2 months, 6 weeks, 2 months in advance. And so the prediction was that it was going to be a low turnout. So he was basically humiliated. He won't admit to it, of course, because he never admits to anything, but he was basically humiliated, claiming that those numbers there were much bigger than the numbers of people marching in 2,000 cities. But I don't know that anything was accomplished other than to know that there were a lot of like-minded people, or a lot of people who are also upset about what's happening to this country. But what are we going to do about it? When you look at the Supreme Court ruling today, and today being Wednesday, we record Wednesday, we drop on Thursdays. that upheld the Tennessee law that outlawed giving care to trans youth, to trans kids, and they criminalized it in such a way that doctors who provide this care can be arrested and can be jailed. And 6-3 ruling. And after the fact, the fact that you've got so many people in the streets who are saying we don't like any of this, the fact that the Supreme Court doesn't care, the fact that Trump feels like he's invulnerable. What can you do to him? They've already ruled anything he does is legal as long as he is in the White House. What can we possibly do over the course of the next 3.5 years other than grit our teeth?
Grit our teeth and stand together. It sounds corny, but it's what you have to do, because there's nothing else we can do except, as Proops said, you got to vote, you got to get out to vote, and you got to make the difference. And you can, every election counts. Again, that's what Proops had said, and it's exactly what you have to do. That's what they did. They did whatever it took to be in the White House, and we have to be stronger.
Well,
and smarter.
Smarter.
Well, the voter suppression, the things I'm reading about voter suppression, more and more is coming out in terms of the thousands of provisional ballots or mail-in ballots that were thrown out for stupid things, like a period was missing, or, a number was transposed on a return zip code, just anything. So there were a lot of votes that were presumably votes that would have been for Democratic candidates or for Kamala that were tossed out. It just all, how are we going to see anything any differently? Everybody's going midterms. We'll take everything back in the midterms. I don't have faith in that. I have faith that if people turn out, we will, and if the votes are counted, we will. But with voter suppression and with I can't believe that there's still apathy, but there's still apathy, even with the millions of people in the street. Based upon, for example, the example you gave. I don't think we were recording yet, Greg, of the school board election in, what was it, Virginia, where the turnout was low. I mean, I can't believe there'd be anywhere in any election today where people would not get off their butts, get off the couch, and go somewhere and place a ballot and cast a ballot.
Well, I mean, a good deal of it is we cannot quit fighting. I mean, to answer the first question you posed, everyone, it's important to talk to people that you meet, your Uber driver, whoever it is, the person you're buying a sandwich from, and ask them if they're registered to vote and if they're willing to actually get up and vote. Here in California, it's easy because we can vote by mail, but in a lot of states, like Georgia, for instance, it's not so easy. And you have to get in line and stuff early in the morning. So it's a commitment. And the other thing is, and I never shut up about this, but white people don't give a fuck about anything except gaming, betting on sports, smoking weed, and being assholes. And it's the biggest problem in America. It's not that every white person is in the Ku Klux Klan. It's that there's 90 million white people who sat with their thumb up their ass thinking that the universe was going to take care of them like it always does. And I think that's where the protests are good, because then it gets people enthusiastic about something. And like Eddie said, then you have a sense of collegial, like it's not just me. I'm not just sitting in my room fulminating over my phone or whatever. But really participating means actual participating and not just saying stupid shit that you hear on TikTok and whatnot. And I think a lot of people are really involved in assimilating disinformation and not thinking laterally or thinking in any way logically or anything like that. And a lot of it is a process of, social media and this and that. And it's impossible to trust the giant media outlets now, because they're all in the bag and they're all run by right-wing Nazi people. So why would you listen to the New York Times or the Washington Post when they write things like "Great Big Parade, it was awesome"?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Government great according to government. I
can't believe how all these tech people and these tech companies are all on bended knee. It just boggles the mind. What happened to democracy dies in darkness in Bezos's Washington Post? What happened to that? Now all of a sudden we're going to switch our editorial slant, in order to be in favor of things that the Trump administration's in favor. I just don't get it. I post a lot of stuff on Facebook in stuff like we talk about here. And I got a notification day before yesterday, that my profile was in jeopardy. My Facebook profile was in jeopardy because of a post that violated Facebook's standards and practices, or whatever it is.
Well, you told the truth.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, there's that. But here's the issue. I don't know what it is. They never. I click the thing to go to the page to find out what it is that I did. They never put the post up. They never told me what it is that I did. They never told me what it is that the post violated. I have no idea.
Maybe you didn't even post anything. They just sent it to you.
Well, it's possible. I mean, it's possible, because I mean, I in all the years I've been on Facebook, I've had one post that was taken down by them because of complaints. And I was working on a bit, and I asked people to put down every racial slur that they had ever heard regarding people of color. And it was like 200 posts. Because when I was working on all the
that's a popular one.
And all the words, and Facebook took it down because of complaints and standards and practices, and gave me a warning and all that. So I just asked.
Just repost it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
But this time they took nothing down. They just told me you violated standards and practices, and basically if it happens again, we're going to suspend you. And what they said, here's what they said. What the thing said is that we are limiting we're not recommending your post for 72 hours or something. We are limiting the exposure, the spread of your post from your account for the next couple of days as a warning because of what you did, without telling me what it is, I suppose.
Right. Well, one thing you can be sure of is that Bezos, Peter Thiel, Zuckerberg, Liron and whatever, Musk, they don't have anything good in mind.
No.
They're not sitting at home. And the thought, like, what can I do to help people communicate better and to make the truth come out is not something they're considering at any point. And if it does come up, as we found through all the whistleblowers at Facebook and the different various places, when it does come up that there's trouble and they think, well, we should tell the truth, that gets shot down immediately. And, it's easy to see why. If you're really, really wealthy, you're not going to pay any taxes this year. That's how exciting it is for them.
Yeah.
And did you see what they have slipped into the big, beautiful bill that I just read this morning, that they have given the rich another handout, both the House version and the Senate version, in terms of the inheritance tax. Right now, because of the 2017 Trump tax bill, cut the inheritance tax by raising the exemption up to, I think, $13 million for an individual,
million.
and something like 28 million for a married couple, meaning that up to 28 million for a couple is not taxed. Up to 13 million for an individual is not taxed. Well, the new bill bumps it up to 15 million for an individual and 30 million for a married couple, and it's permanent. It does not sunset, and it will increase. It'll be tied to the rate of inflation. The deductible part will be tied to the rate of inflation. Now, here's the thing: is it's like a minuscule number of people that this benefits. It's like it's not the top 1%. It's less than 1% of fewer than 1% of the taxpayers, and it's like, I can't wrap my head around why there is this thirst to give the wealthiest people more. Number one, they don't need it. And it's not a question even of needing it. They got more money that they can spend in 50 lifetimes. So is it worth cutting Medicare or taking food out of the mouths of children, literally food out of the mouths of children,
right,
or taking medicine away from children in other countries to U.S. aid? Is it worth that in order to, allow somebody to buy another yacht or pay for another Maserati or whatever?
Well, I think it's all, our education has, always been fear-based teaching. Scare the shit out of people and let them know that, you're going to go to hell. You're a bad person. You made a sin, and so.
Well, you're Catholic too.
You don't have to be. You can do that with almost every religion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was just us.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying most religions are. You teach, and now they're saying, all right, we're going to teach that in schools in Texas, and that's part of the curriculum. So the more fear-based, the more you scare the shit out of people, the more they're going to cling to their things, and that's what's going on. So you tell someone that you commit a sin, you're saying they're going to go to hell and there's fire and there's brimstone and like, well, I don't want any of that. I just want to get a second Walkman for my grandchild who doesn't know what a Walkman is, or, it's just people are, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
We are living in the past. They're
right. People are being foolish with material stuff. They go, well, I need this thing from 1975, and collect it. And well, it's going to cost you $15,000. Don't worry, I'm not getting taxed on it. I'll be able to get whatever I want. But the bottom line is fear-based teaching, and that's the thing that gets us in the most trouble and scares the hell out of people. And people are walking around scared, and that's why I thought that the marches and stuff like that gives a chance, a little bit of anti-Roy Cohn kind of feeling, where you're going, all right, they're all assholes, they're all bad, they're all using fear to teach us, and now we have a chance now because we could walk together arm in arm and go, it doesn't matter, we still believe in what we believe in.
Okay, but the estate tax, as I said, it's a very, 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 very small.
And 12 people are affected by it.
I know. It's like, who gets $13 million when someone dies, right?
Yeah.
My mom died. I got like 70 pairs of pastel jogging pants.
Nobody's ever left me anything. Nobody in my life has ever left me anything.
Yeah,
I will leave you some jogging pants.
Will you? Well, they won't fit. There'll be women's jogging pants that don't fit. So thank you. But the original reason for the wealth tax or the estate tax, as I understand it, is that it was to keep there from being an American aristocracy. That was the original thought behind it. Yeah, to keep them from being an American aristocracy. That was the reasoning behind it. That, okay, yeah, make as much as you want, but when you die, we're going to take some of it in order to distribute wealth and kind of, at least have some kind of parity. Now, here's what the argument on the other side is, and tell me if you think that there's any legitimacy to that, because you can say that there is. And that is, you work and you earn this money. And when you earn the money, you are taxed on it. Now you die and they're going to tax on, you die and they're going to tax on it again. They're going to tax it again. And they're saying it's double taxation. So is there a legitimacy that you see to that argument?
No, of course not.
Okay, tell me why.
If everyone who accrues a massive amount of wealth has committed a crime, it's pretty much that simple. You can't be as rich as people who, as Cathy said, casually bandy the number 13 million around and not have done something wrong for it. I'm very sincere when I say that. I'm not saying that. I like when you said people work hard. People work really hard. No one we're talking about in this group has worked hard at all, other than to be horrible. I assure you. So it's not double taxation. It's absolutely fair when you accrue that amount of wealth to give something back to the state that has provided, streetlights and hospitals and schools. What they're really, really trying to do is they're very angry about the 20th century, because the 20th century gave us women's voting, it gave us suffrage, it gave us the Civil Rights Act, and it gave us income tax. And all of those things didn't exist in the 19th century when they got to do what they wanted, which was kill everyone who was in their way, take all their stuff, and no one could say anything about it, which is what the 19th and 18th and 17th and 16th century were. And they're mad about that, and they would like to return to that. So it's not, to me, it's like when people ask about white voters and say, why would they vote against their own interests? They're not voting against their own interests. Their interest is racism. They don't have another interest. So
let's be fair.
People go, "What? Oh, I'm not going to get any benefits. Why would I vote against that?" Yeah. Because you don't care about that. You only care about hurting people below you, and the rich don't care about whether there's a logic to being taxed twice is absolutely superfluous to the fact that they want to accrue wealth and have nothing impinge that.
All right, now you keep mentioning white people, and of course the overwhelming.
Yes, I know a bunch of them.
You know, I've met 2 or 3. In
my whole family's full of them.
Mine isn't. But the thing that we have to keep in mind, and it pisses me off every time I see the statistics on it, is that Trump improved among African American men and Latino men. And especially among African American and Latino men under the age of either 25 or 30, which just boggles the mind, Latinos, especially when he's saying he's going to be deporting people, and African-American men at that age, if you're a 25-year-old black man, you are in the prime demo to be stopped by the police or shot by the police for no reason. And part of one of the things he ran on, and I'm surprised we haven't heard about it, he hasn't tried to do it already, is he promised to give unqualified immunity to police officers so that they could never be held legally responsible for anything they ever did under any circumstances. So why is a 25-year-old black man voting for this? I don't get it. There's so much about this I just cannot wrap my head around. And if I hear one more person say, "Well, God, I voted for him, but this isn't what I voted for," I'm going to hurl if I hear somebody else say that again.
Oh, I love hearing
exactly
that,
what
though.
you voted for.
I love hearing that. And I think just as time goes by, this little Trump house of cards, the little card's going to fucking fall, and then another one, and then people hopefully will be able to come to terms with, oh, I was duped.
It's like in The Wizard of Oz when that guy at the end goes, "You've killed her."
Hail Dorothy.
Yeah,
The guy at the end.
Yeah, he's like, "Cut. What'd you say?" I'm sorry. You killed her.
Well, I think it's a lot of the propaganda, Brian. I mean, men under 30 are a real issue in this country. They're right wing, they're sexist, they're racist, they're misogynist, and I'm including the black men and the Latin men. It's not possible for people who aren't white to be racist, but it is possible for them to be bigots and to be ignorant. And they believe the shit they see on their phone, and the shit they see on their phone is shoveled at them 1,000 times a day.
Yeah,
that women are gold diggers, that women are bitches, and therefore a Hillary or a Kamala makes your pee-pee hurt because she's going to tell you what to do, and you just can't have that because you got to be able to game and gamble and do all the things that are really, really cool that men do. And chicks are still supposed to give it up to you because you're so awesome, even though you dress poorly, have no vocabulary, and don't know shit. So there's my grumpy old man rant.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's different, and
I'll get off your
when I
lawn.
was in college back in the 40s, we had to take a newspaper one year, I remember, and read it every day.
Yeah.
We had to do all these different things. We had to learn civics. And I don't think any of that's required anymore.
No.
And that is a great deal of where the disconnect comes.
When you got Caroline Leavitt, what's her last name? Leavitt?
Levitt.
Levitt. And
Is it Levitt?
As in Levittown, Levitt? Saying that, that the president can't do the things he needs to do, if he has to answer to the other two branches of government. People are going, what? You never took civics in school? Because you and I are close to the same age, probably within a year or two in school. And I remember that we had to subscribe to Time magazine. That was part of the curriculum.
And read it every week.
Read it cover to cover every week, and there'd be a quiz. There'd be a quiz on things that you'd only know if you'd read it. Civics is no longer required. But how could you make a statement like that? Well, yeah, the other two branches, if they get in the way, it's called checks and balances.
We had those elections and they got in the way, so we had to rechange the elections so that we could win because they were getting in the way.
Well, let me ask you guys this. As you know, the Israelis are bombing Iran. And Trump is sort of, I'm not going to say sort of, he is slowly inserting America into this conflict. And he, yesterday being Tuesday, I believe it was yesterday, demanded that Iran unconditionally surrender. And of course, they're going to tell him to pound salt. They're not going to do it. And so today, in the press conference, he refused to answer the question as to whether or not America may order the bombing of Iranian nuclear sites. So my question for you is this: do you put it past him? And I already know the answer. Well, let's talk anyway. Let's pontificate anyway. Do you think that there is a possibility that he may get us involved in an active war simply as a means of wagging the dog in order to distract us from the bill that the more people hear about this big, beautiful bill, the more they hate it and they despise it. The other scandals, the number came out yesterday that since the inauguration, his net worth has increased by $2.9 billion. just in the last 70 days since he's been in office. And there are many others, because nobody he's appointed to head any agency or any department is remotely qualified whatsoever. And there's just like before, scandal after scandal after scandal after scandal, that by dropping a couple of bombs, all of a sudden it's, well, we got to rally behind the flag, and we'll be looking over here while you're screwing us over there. So do you put this past him? How possible or probable do you think it is?
Not probable.
No,
did you see the military parade?
Yes.
And I think he doesn't even know what's going on. I really don't. I don't think he has a clue what's happening. And that's why he's like, oh, well, I don't know. Maybe someone knows, but that's why he's being so freaky and evasive, is because he's probably trying to get schooled real quick on what's going on.
Yeah, he never was smart and never made money on his own. He was never a good businessman. He was never anything, and it hurts him. It just frustrates him. And like the thing, where he's getting caught on the planes and the boats going to 13-year-old land and all that other kind of stuff. It's, it freaks him out, because that's not what he wants to be remembered for. He wants to be remembered for being the greatest president that ever lived. And it's just not working. So I just see him being angry and going, oh yeah, well, look at this, boom, and the weird thing is Iran is made up of a lot of really smart, incredibly intelligent young people who are trying to legitimize their country and not use, there are bad people in every country, in our country especially, but there's so many incredible people, such an intelligent country, that we think they're all bad people. They're all boogeymen. They're all yelling, whoa, 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 into a sheet and whatever. But in reality, I'm trying to be as cool as I could with that one.
Sure.
And the important thing is that these young people have a chance to make Iran great again. No, great for the first time. Yeah, you make Iran, giving Iran, some legitimacy. These old men, older than me even, are the ones who are screwing it up for everybody.
Well, that the Ayatollah has said that if America gets actively involved in this conflict, that Americans are going to pay the price, which is a threat of terrorism. And as you know, they are fanatics, and we know they'll fly planes into buildings. They don't care if they die along, if they die for the cause. That way they can get their, how many virgins is it? 70 virgins. Who wants 70 who wants 2 virgins? Who wants 1 virgin? And it's 70.
Cathy does. Well, I think he would. I think it's a combo platter,
I think I know 70 virgins, but go on.
I think what Cathy said is true. He hasn't any notion of what's going on. And the reason he left the G7 conference was because that became painfully evident. And he also got the drift. He's not that far gone, that everyone thought he was a laughingstock and a clown. And that's why he left. He didn't leave because he had something to do with Iran. He hasn't any notion of what's going on in Iran. Also, America has to help them, the Israelis, bomb these particular underground sites if they're going to finish the thing that they've started to do. Mm-hmm. And the other reason why the Israelis chose now to do it, even though I think Netanyahu is not, he's not even someone that the Israelis particularly support. Mm-hmm. He illegally took control. Yeah. So I'd like people to remember that and not blame every Jew on earth, which would be really nice if I could get up in the morning and not have every Jew in the world fucking impugned. And secondly, Iran doesn't have the proxy forces that they had even 2 years ago. There isn't the kind of Hamas and Al Qaeda and all the other great terrorist groups that they used to really depend on. So their threat's a little bit empty. Would he do it? Yes, if he could. Mm-hmm. Does he understand the ramifications of it? Not at all. And the person running the Defense Department is an incoherent alcoholic moron. So the idea that something coherent,
by the way, a weekend Fox host, not even like, he couldn't even get anybody from the main lineup. This is a weekend.
He's not even
guy.
Greg Gutfeld.
Yeah. Yes. A weekend guy in trouble. Yeah. Oh, that's the guy.
Oh yeah.
So I to be quite honest with you, I'm much more cynical than you are, Cathy. I think it's probable. I absolutely think it's probable that he'll do it. I think he'll do it if there's enough noise made, especially about this bill, because it's hanging by a thread as it is. And there are every member of the House has to face their constituents, and the red states are going to get the hardest hit. The hardest when Medicaid is cut. And there are senators who are in purple states or even in red states that, again, are going to be decimated. You're going to see emergency clinics closed, hospitals closed, all of these things because of Medicaid being cut. And, I don't see a lot of them, especially any who are going to be on the ballot next year, voting for this, voting to hurt their own people like that. I mean, they can't even hold town hall meetings, in ruby red districts and ruby red states without there being protests by their own people. So I don't see how they do that. I just don't see how they do that. So, I mean, you got a handful who have testicular fortitude, and they are women primarily. Susan Collins of Maine and what's her name in Alaska? Help me.
Murkowski.
Yes, thank you. Murkowski in Alaska have already pretty much signaled that they're not going to vote for it. And even I'm blanking on names. That kiss-ass senator who walked past on January 6th and gave them
Josh Hawley.
Josh Hawley, yes. He's opposed to it if it cuts Medicaid. He says he's not going to let that happen. And I never thought I'd be on the same side of an issue as
Rand Paul even.
And Rand Paul even.
And we were all on the side of Rand Paul's neighbor.
All right, yeah. Punching Hawley.
Bernie Sanders said today that the Democrats should stop, and actually Bernie Sanders and 7 other Democratic senators who were unnamed in a piece that I read said, I guess yesterday or today, that Democrats should stop taking contributions from billionaires. What do you think about that idea? Quite frankly, I think it's dumb, because how else are you going to compete?
Yeah.
I mean, you're outgunned as far as money is concerned on the other side. They need every dollar they can get, which is why I continue to get texts every day asking for $20 from random Congress people in districts and states that people I've never heard of. Some have my number and are asking me for $20.
I think it's mainly just a show to say, we really shouldn't. But
yeah.
But we know we shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yes.
We know we shouldn't, but
yeah, it's right there. Just reaching this and
but
grab
at least
that
they're saying we shouldn't. It's like we really shouldn't eat candy before dinner.
I love candy before dinner and ice cream.
Yeah.
No, it's a good idea. I don't listen to anything Bernie Sanders says. 1, he's not a Democrat. 2, he has nothing to say. And 3, he's partly responsible for where we are now. So he can take his whole fucking shitty ethos and stuff it, as far as I'm concerned. He introduced the whole idea of rigged elections that Democrats were holding, and I've never forgiven him for that. He also said Hillary Clinton wasn't qualified to be president, and he's someone who never voted till he was 40. So if you want my personal feelings about Bernie, and secondly, he has no ideas. Anyone who talks about economy all the time and billionaires and never brings up race or any of the other issues or sexism is an idiot. An idiot. Because nothing is black and white. Everything is a very complicated issue. By saying the things he says, you're talking about young people. Young white people fucking love Bernie, because Bernie goes, a unicorn's going to come to your house and he's going to shit a bunch of starburst on your lawn, and then everything will be okay after that. And that's not how anything works. And we're all grown up enough to know that. We're all cynical enough. We lived through Reagan. Reagan started a war and with the island of Grenada.
That's right.
Because 240 Marines were killed in Lebanon. HW started a war in Kuwait because he wanted the oil. W started the war because they tried to kill my daddy. So the whole will Republicans start a war to distract you is a great big yes, because it's the only thing they really have. It's a good idea. Like, Bernie will say a lot of things like, bad things are bad and no one likes cancer and stuff. But again, he's running for re-election, and I have to hear all the time that there's a gerontocracy, that Chuck Schumer's too old or whoever's too old, Biden's too old. And yet Bernie, who has never had a good idea or said anything of worth, is 1,000 years old, and people still back his ass. and Trump, by the way, who's a good jillion years old.
Right.
And I'll go further, looks like hammered dog shit. I don't know if you saw what he looked like on the plane yesterday or what he looked like today in the press conference, but he does not look good, sweetie. And yet we have Jake Tapper and them running around talking about Biden being old. So it's very selective who we think is old and who isn't old. And the Republican Party is the one that's really run by the gerontocracy, because you got your Mitch McConnell, you got your Chuck Grassley, you got your Trump and whatnot.
Well, McConnell is retiring. McConnell is retiring. I don't know about Grassley. He should. He should. You think about Trump being 79 years old, and if I wanted to be president of the United States, I don't think at 79 I would want to do it. I would want to play with my grandchildren. I would want to rest because I've been working since I was 14 years old. Actually, before that, I would want to rest. I would want to enjoy my life and not have to deal with all the problems that are. I mean, if you look at pictures of Obama on the day he was sworn in and the day he left, it's like dog years.
His hair turned white.
In terms of how they age. So why in the hell would anybody want to do that at 79 years old? Well, you know why?
To steal.
Right.
To increase your net worth by $3 billion over the course of 70 days.
Because Trump has never been successful at anything, literally anything ever. And all the money was borrowed or given to him as a gift. And he still was broke and he still had to have, all the bankruptcies. He's still really horrible. And the only way he realized how to make money is to be president. And that's what he's done. He's he's forcing people to give him money so they could sit across the table with him. And now he has billions of dollars, which he was never able to do in anything else he's ever done.
No. Well, everybody's saying that Gavin Newsom has now risen to take up the mantle of head of the opposition, because the opposition really has had no leadership, and that he is positioning himself to run in 2028. And
that scares me. I like a guy like Pete Buttigieg, to me, I don't know everything good or bad about him. I just know he speaks well. He's a smart person and he cares and he stands up to people. And that's what you want. That's what I want, and Gavin Newsom it appears to me, and maybe it's horrible of me to say this, he appears like a clown, like a cartoon politician. I don't know. He's not my guy. But, is America going to vote for a gay guy? America doesn't want to vote for a woman. America doesn't want to vote.
A black woman, there's not, I just don't see it.
Which is ridiculous that we know that now instead of, hearing what they have to say.
Except for Lindsey Graham.
Right. Yeah, that's a different story.
Nobody will actually go there.
What do you think? Proops, what do you think of Newsom? And you're in his world. And
let me tell you before we go into this too, in the interest of disclosure.
Sorry
I'm gonna close my mouth on this one because he's a friend of mine, and so in the interest of disclosure, I've got to say that. Okay, so go on, Greg.
I think he's awesome. I don't think he's going to run for president, but I think he's been a very good governor, and I think he's been one of the few governors that can articulate the very reasons. When the shit hit the fan last week, he absolutely jumped right out in front of it.
He did.
He did not waffle. He did not equivocate. And he said, if you recall on television, the attorney general's threatened to arrest me. Come and arrest me. And that stopped them from doing that very thing. The idea of them coming to Sacramento and arresting him in front of everyone absolutely went out the window because he called their bluff. And I think he's good in that regard. Will he run for president? I don't think so. In my opinion, and I know everyone is not going to agree with me about this because I've met a lot of white people over the years, Kamala Harris is still the head of the party. She was vice president. She was in the White House for 4 years. The Democratic Party proved that it could run women for president. The Democratic Party proved that it would put a black woman in the Supreme Court and a black woman in the White House. Therefore, the Democratic Party is the progressive party and the party that's moving forward. And she was very close to winning the presidency. If it wasn't for a dazzling variety of propaganda and jiggery pokery and every other goddamn thing. And so in my opinion, I think she should stand again. If it was a white guy, and let's go back, Fritz Mondale, Mitt Romney and whatnot, no one said two fucking words about them running again. But because it's a black woman, like, oh, maybe we should have a guy, maybe we should have a white guy, maybe we should blah, 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 blah.
Nixon.
Fuck you. She was vice president. She's next in line to be fucking president, and that's where I'm coming from on that one. I know that was my answer about Newsom.
People forget
because because as a New Yorker, I don't know Newsom as well as other people.
Yeah.
Don't really know where Pete Buttigieg is not the head of New York, but he's a guy who really is smart and has something to say, and he cares about both sides, and he doesn't mind going into the den of the other people and saying, "Look, you're wrong in this situation." And what Trump would always say, she's the worst vice president America's ever had, the worst vice president. Well, show me the list that they've compiled of vice presidents in the order of who was the best and who was the worst. Where's Mondale on that list? She was the worst vice president we've ever had. How do you know? There's no
name vice president. Other than Truman, name one. I think FDR had 3 vice presidents. Name one. Name one of them.
Also, Trump was going to hang his vice president.
Yes.
And that's gone by the wayside. No one cared. It didn't matter. Him dressing up in the McDonald's outfit didn't matter. The cats and dogs didn't matter. At the end, the debates didn't matter. Nothing mattered except that rich right-wing assholes wanted him to be president, and they sort of forced the issue.
And they got it.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that if Kamala had more runway, in other words, if Biden had not announced, and she had been had gone through the primary process, number one, do you think she would have been the nominee? And number two, do you think that the outcome might have been any different? Because part of it was she had a very compressed time to run what I thought was a great, hopeful campaign.
It was good.
Well, if Biden had been the nominee again, and then now we're 6 months into this, if he had started to fail or falter at all, she would have been president, and then she could have stood again on her own. That's how I look at it. I'm not forgiving the people that forced him out. The debate was a debacle, and now we know Jake Tapper is a complete Russian tool. And he was in charge of the debate and turning the mic down and making sure that somehow we were supposed to pretend that Trump looked really good and Biden looked really bad. I think they made some mistakes, of course. Would she have won if she had longer? I don't know. I'd like to think so, because I think Hillary won.
Yeah,
and
right.
That one I absolutely believe was rigged. I don't actually think the last one was rigged. I think that people are really racist and sexist.
Well,
the election that happened during the goddamn COVID was one of the most legitimate elections we ever had.
Mm-hmm.
All the votes were counted.
It was literally the most honest and most 100%, 99.9% honest election. And even the Republicans said that. Even the Republicans who worked on all of the elections said, I just got to tell you, we got it right.
And one of the most heavily scrutinized ever. And the fact that they people still buy this lie about voter fraud that they use for voter suppression, and do anything that they can to suppress the votes of people in communities and in districts and in areas where they feel that they are more likely to vote Democratic. It's as I said, I just get exasperated. It's one thing after another. I'm exhausted. I promised myself I was not going to do what I did the first term. I was not going to run around with my head on fire. And I'm trying not to look at everything, but I do have to look at things for this podcast and other things that we're doing on this channel. But I'm still exhausted. It's just, you can't keep up with everything. It's shock and awe. Let's just throw everything that they possibly can. And you can't, you got to pick and choose. You got to, the mantra is, you got to pick the hill you're willing to die on. And we're not all willing to die on every single hill. We're not.
There's too many hills.
That's exactly it. There are too many.
Shock and Awe Mountains. I used to live near the Shock and Awe Mountains.
They were there. Shock and Awe.
They're right outside the Poconos.
Oh Lord! Well, I'm glad we can laugh. At least we got that for it.
Well, there's an important point. I'm on the road with these guys, and we have this discussion. Not all of us at once, because we're not a philosophy group. We're a fucking improv group. And next to puns, I think you'll agree, improv absolutely the most clever of all comedy. But
you mean practice?
Yeah. You mean a bunch of assholes playing charades for money? And my favorite comment from England: why not prepare something funny? We talk about it because, I come to the show and I'm losing my mind and I'm verklempt and I'm upset and democracy's falling. And then we've got to get up in front of a bunch of people and make them laugh. And that's our job. God damn it.
Yeah.
We can quibble all we want, but we can't sit around and mope. We're fucking clowns, and we have to be clowns even during Nazi Germany. It's really important. It's not the most vital thing. Like Peter Cook said, someone asked Peter Cook, the comedian once from England, who's a genius of Cook and Moore, Dudley Moore's partner, the tall blonde one. And he was very acerbic. And someone said to him, do you think comedy can change people's mind about politics? And he said, absolutely. Look what the Weimar Cabaret did in Stopping Hitler. And it's the greatest comedy joke of all time because
but it's perfect.
Comedy's not going to change anything, but people buy tickets to go see it and or listen to your podcast or whatever, and they deserve to laugh. They don't deserve to watch us fulminate and have angst on stage. They deserve us to fucking fall on our ass and be funny for an hour. I'm doing improv, mind you. If I was doing stand-up, it would be a lot more caustic and a lot more pointed.
I'm doing one-man shows, so I can do this and I can say whatever. I've got a whole show about this. The Great American Shit Show. I do it once a month while he's in office. It's monologues on life in the age of Trump. And I love you for doing that. And I love that idea. See, when you're in a group and you know the deal, you guys, when you're in a group, you can't step forward and go, here's what I think. You're in a band, we can't let Ringo sing every goddamn song. We have to fucking all, we
have to find out that George is really the most talented.
Right? and I am so sick of writing something over and over again and having nothing happen with it.
Right.
But when you're a stand-up, you can absolutely focus on what's what. Do I think every stand-up should talk about politics? No, a lot of people aren't equipped.
Very few, if you look at it back, like Barry Crimmins and Mort Saul and just a handful of people who are good at. People say, well, why don't you do a lot of political?
Go back to Will Rogers.
Yeah,
he was the first, really. I think.
I think there's a lot of great stand-up comedians. Right. I don't think that there's a lot of great political satirists.
Yeah,
because it's a very specific thing, and it's a very difficult terrain, and you can't just get up and go, hey, fuck that guy, because that's not satire.
Right.
Durst was so brilliant. We miss Will Durst performing regularly so much because he is the most brilliant political satirist I have ever seen. He's the most brilliant satirist I've ever seen.
He is. Durst absolutely worked one patch of ground, and he was very specific about it, and that's the genius of him. There's comics also like, Carlin, obviously, or Bill Hicks, but someone like Pryor or Lily Tomlin, to take it back. I don't know how old your crowd is, but they're social commentators, and within that is politics. Right. You know what I mean? Because I believe everything's political. How you order your coffee is political. How you treat people at the restaurant's political. There really isn't anything that isn't political. And that's why when people go, well, you should just shut up and stick to the funny or whatever. It's like,
well, at least they think you're funny. That's the good. That's the.
We didn't come here to hear your opinions. We didn't come to your stand show to hear your opinions. Excuse me.
Right?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Well, I
didn't come here to please you, so we're even.
Yeah, right. I had a guy in an American flag tie. I was playing the Excalibur years ago, and I was sharing a dressing room with the Thunder from Down Under. So the dressing room smelled like Australian balls, right? Like it was just, it's pretty heady. It's pretty heady.
Right.
And they were lovely, of course. The guys, the Thunder were really nice. And so I would do my show to 100 people, and then there'd be 500 women with enormous glasses, the big green drinks. And before I did my first, this is the Excalibur, right? The one that looks like King Arthur's castle in Vegas. And my room had a treasure chest. There was nothing in it, but I put some stuff
Sticking with the theme.
Yeah. The guy sat me down before the first show, and he had an American flag tie on, and he went, look, people don't come here to watch fucking CNN. Okay. They come here to fucking laugh, Greg. And I was like, I couldn't agree more, Guido.
Right. Yeah. That's so fantastic.
Opening for people I have been, warned, before the first night, don't do anything political. Because it reflects on, the only place I ever played in Vegas is I used to play Caesar's Palace before they turned Circus into, first it was the Celine Dion room and whatever the residency is now. And I would go every year and I would open for Earth, Wind and Fire. And before the first show, I was always kind of just, bored just to kind of keep it, keep it middle of the road. Keep it middle of the road. It's like, fine. I only got 15
Well, I was
minutes,
lucky
fine.
because I worked with Schimmel all the time, and it was just silly, goofy playfulness, and I didn't have to worry about politics, and we'd have to worry about, not that and I agree completely with Proops on everything's political, but we didn't have to worry about anything. We could just be ourselves, and I think that's where I was blessed in my early opening days to open for someone like that, someone where and it makes a big difference because I also, Rick Rubin recently was interviewed, and he said, I don't write my music for the audience, I write it for myself, and if I like it, then I do it, and if I don't like it, I don't do it. And that's what I got from Schimmel. And I said, why did you change that line? It was so brilliant. He says, I don't want to get bored. I want to do a different. To me, I was so blessed to have him be the guy who I opened for.
Robert was a nice guy, man.
I was 19 and I was brand new. I started in 18 the summer after I graduated high school. And one of the and nobody knew who Schimmel was. I got in that first year. I was an MC in my first year. I got to work with Schimmel and with Kinnison, both. Nice. And again, before anybody knew who they were, and Kinnison they didn't get at all. I mean, at the time, he was walking people every single night. He was crappy one-nighters at places, and but it's great the things that I was able to pick up. I was blessed, and just like you, to work with these folks and to learn things, learn what to do and why you can do it and why you can get away with it if you do it the right way.
Well, we were invited to do Cobb's right after the earthquake, and I've never heard an audience laugh as hard at the same material we had done before, just as hard to do that. And it took a guy like Schimmel to, make people laugh after one of the most horrific tragedies in the world. And that's what I find in comedy to be the beauty. Like, we're looking at, the world is messed up and we're all complaining and screaming, but in reality, we can really laugh really hard and feel good about ourselves. And I think that is the big lesson that I got.
And that is a good thing for us to end on. I want to thank you guys for being with me, you gentlemen and lady, for being with me today. Let's throw plugs. Anything you guys want to throw out? Greg, you're playing. You're with the Who's Line guys in Canada.
Oh, we're in Canada this week, and then we'll be off all summer. We'll come back in September. That's whoslive.com. The film club we're showing tonight. We're showing Charlie Varick over at Les Fils Street.
Yeah.
We're going to do another film at the end of July. Jennifer picks all the movies. Then The Smartest Man in the World, we're going to record one today, and that'll come out probably later this week. That's you can go all of this at gregproops.com. I have an album out called Purple Shasta Raccoon, and that's also on gregproops.com. And I recorded it at the Punchline. I improvised the album, and yes, it has politics on it. And I want to tell you one joke off of it. I got the worst thing about being a stand-up comedian is the names of the venues you have to play, because it's so humiliating. Like, we never play like the Bernard Baruch violin school. Like, someone will go, where are you playing? And you'll go, Lamb Shanks. And then it used to be called Sir Lamb Shanks, but the sign.
The Sir blew away. The big Sir.
Yeah. Like, there's no dignity,
Not the chuckle hut.
Yeah, the chuckle hut.
Eddie, where are you?
The good news is I'm still all over New York a lot because I love being home. But I'm going to Ireland and to work Dublin again. As Proops knows, Europe, there's no pandering. The crowds are amazing and smart, and it's great. So I'm going to Ireland. Then my dream was always to do New Zealand, and I was going to go with this comedian in the 2020. Of course, the pandemic came. So the end of this year, I'm doing Hong Kong, followed by Australia, followed by New Zealand for the very first time. So I'm excited about that. I just signed a book deal for a storybook, Eddie Tell Me a Story, it's called, and a whole bunch of things. I'm doing a lot of good things. I'm still alive. I still wake up. I have 2 grandchildren. They rock my world, and I love doing the show. So, EddieBrill.com and all the stuff that goes with Eddie Brill.
All right. Cathy, you in Seattle this weekend?
No, next weekend. I'd like to give my band a shout out if I can.
Do.
The Mrs. Bill Larsons. We do 60s girl pop. We're a 10-piece band playing at Daryl's Tavern on the 28th of June.
Oh, that sounds awesome. This is absolutely awesome. I got to come and check you out when I'm up north.
Do that on your way to Canada.
On my way to Canada. Well, thank you, Greg Proops, Eddie Brill, and Cathy Sorbo. Come back soon. I appreciate it.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Great to hang out with you guys.
Yeah,
that's going to do it for me. If you like what it is that you saw on YouTube or you heard, a couple ways you can support us. One is by telling everybody you know any way that you possibly can. Send them the link. If you were listening to us, go to the reviews wherever you're listening to the podcast and leave us a 5-star review. That helps people to find the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe so that you get it every single week. And I will check out next week. Till then, be kind to your neighbor. He knows where you live.